you imagine experiencing your life as easy and peaceful most of the time, even when things around you seem to be in chaos? It truly is a possibility. That is the gift of living with soul and ego in harmony, living in self-awareness without judgment. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the magic that is energy medicine. Now, here is the host of Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine, Traci Trimble.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Traci, and I'm a doctor of energy medicine. As a bioenergetic therapist, a spiritual guide, and an energy worker, I specialize in treating both the cause and the effects of depression, anxiety, acute stress, and chronic pain from the perspective of the human bioenergetic field. And today, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, that which needs to heal from our bioenergetic field. My passion is teaching energy medicine such as Reiki, chakra balancing, and Hatha Yoga. My gift is that I have the ability to see through the layers of energy that surround our physical bodies, called the bioenergetic field. And my superpower is the ability, with your permission, to connect directly to the voice of your soul, whether it's whispering quietly or crying out. Gift is to hear that sound. Then, as a trained talk therapist, I have the joy of speaking with your ego energy. It becomes my job to guide, teach, and heal you, to bring your soul and ego back into harmony. And that's what this show is about each week. Educational opportunities to understand self-awareness, understand the importance of soul and ego being in harmony, but most importantly, to understand who you want to be so that you have the capacity physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually to be exactly who you're meant to be. This week's show, we're talking about bioenergetic trauma. It's energy that gets trapped inside of our energy field that causes harm and suffering. Let me shift that actually. It's caused by harm and suffering, and it attracts to us more harm and suffering. So we believe that it's causing our harm and suffering. So we're going to go into great detail today about what the bioenergetic field is, how energy is magnetized to us, what bioenergetic trauma is, and also ways in which you can heal yourself from the accumulation of such energies. Imagine that within your personal life force energy, there are magnetic-like beacons of energy that call to and attract other like energies. These magnetic beacons are called traumas. And I want to talk to you today about where they come from. So let's start by talking about what our bioenergetic field is. So in the most simplistic layman terms, I want you to imagine that you're standing upright. Your feet are planted hip distance apart, your shoulders are back and down, and your arms are at your side, but you're lifting them up so that your palms are horizontal to the floor. Now step your feet out just a little bit wider. If I took a picture of you right now, you'd recognize this as the medicine man. In most medical and metaphysical imaging, you see a man within a sacred geometry circle, standing with its legs and arms out. That circle that you see around such an image, that's your bioenergetic field. Now, if you were to draw a small circle around your feet and twist your body in that circle, that is the distance in which your energy exists in your body, outside of your body, and around your body. And for me, I have the capacity to visually see that encompassing energy around you. For me, it looks a little like a hot, hazy day staring out into the distance and you can see a haze around someone. When someone is consciously competent or unconsciously competent, which means they're in a really good place physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, mostly through awareness, it's a pretty clear field. That does not mean that it's perfectly clear for anyone at any time. The world around us is full of different energies, vibrations, or frequencies. And although we're not consciously aware of that language or those cues, they guide us, they teach us. And they're meant to protect us. The challenge is that they are interpreted by our ego. And ego very often confuses types of energy as needing them to protect us, but they actually cause us harm. And I'm going to go into that in greater detail as we move through the show. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, our bioenergetic field is not only inside of our body, but it's around our body. Our layers include our physical, we can touch, taste, and feel, and our spiritual, which we cannot touch, taste, or feel, but we can know. And then in between the lower energies, the physical, and the higher energies, the spiritual, are the ways in which we learn to communicate. Our emotions are our warning system, the ways in which we are guided to navigate and take care of ourselves. Our mind, our intellect, or our mental energy body is about how we decipher what goes on. It is exactly how soul and ego commune, either in harmony or in chaos. So, what happens is our bioenergetic field is sensory. This is my own personal theory. I don't expect you to believe it. But if you pay close attention, you'll come to find your own evidence that this is true. I believe that our bioenergetic field operates in a 3-day, so 3 24-hour cycles. And that's always moving with time. It's only our physical body that exists in time. So this 3 days is very important. The more you become consciously aware of the 3-day theory and its effects on your bioenergetic field, the more you will believe that you can heal yourself, that meditation, yoga, and Reiki are powerful medications, and that the world around you isn't really as scary and yucky and gross as it has sometimes appeared to be. So let's start with the 3-day theory. On the first day, this first 24-hour start, which let's pretend right now, in this moment, let's pretend it's around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm starting a new 24-hour cycle. Whatever happens to me, for me, because of me, or around me, I'm interpreting it, whether I'm aware of it or not. People, places, things, scenes, situations, and scenarios are taking place. Even if I think I'm alone and not doing anything, the world around me is still happening to me, and I'm still interpreting it. I'm interpreting it as a human being from one of two places. It's good or it's bad. Metaphysically, from fear, and I've labeled it bad, or from love, and I've labeled it good. If it's love energy, it's a higher vibration, and it's actually fueling me. It's fueling my physical, my emotional, my mental, and my spiritual. But if it's non-beneficial energy, if it's fear energy or it's bad, it's actually clogging up my bioenergetic field. In this first 24-hour time segment, it sits on the outside of my bioenergetic field. Remember, I told you that energy flows all around you. And it's saying, oh, I was attracted here. I think I'm going to stay. And it sits on the outside of your bioenergetic field slowly over a 24-hour period of time, transitioning into your belief system. If you don't do anything to spiritually, physically, emotionally, or mentally wash that debris off, then it now, in the next 24-hour cycle, becomes part of your bioenergetic field. And not only does it move into your energy, but it starts to emit a frequency that calls other like energies. So it calls its yucky friends over and it says, I have found the perfect place for us. Come on over. Over the next 24 hours, it starts to move into our cellular memory. Our cellular memory is where we store our beliefs and habits so that ego doesn't have to consciously recall them. And it becomes evidence of whatever our original trauma is that attracted that energy to us in the first place. So, for example, and I will explain this in great detail, if your original trauma, the trauma that you experienced through the conception to birth process that began to develop your belief system, is abandonment, the belief that you will always be left behind by others, so it may be okay for you to leave yourself behind, that energy magnetizes to you these other energies that then become debris that clog up your bioenergetic field. And after a period of time of not spiritually showering that energy off, it becomes heavy. To me, this is depression, anxiety, acute stress, and chronic pain. And what's really cool for me about these non-beneficial energies living off of your bioenergetic field is I can see them. Because I can see them, I've learned the tools to pull them out of your experience so that you are no longer unconsciously drawing these energies to you. Let me give you an example. You have something that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired about, and no matter how hard you try, you may go to therapy, you may take courses and programs, you may do treatments, you may read books. You've done everything, and it doesn't seem to go away. It stops for a while, but then it builds back up. That's because our purposefulness is to always be doing our work, to always be keeping our bioenergetic field clean. If we aren't cleaning our bioenergetic field every day, if not at least every 3 days, then these energies are building up and becoming evidence that we carry around with us. Now, if you'd like to go back and learn more about carrying these energies around, please go through your podcasts, either on iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube, and find my show called The Backpack, or it might actually be called Unpacking Your Backpack. It's going to give you a really good idea of how heavy this weight and burden is of your bioenergetic field layering up. Imagine it this way. You are a beautiful white porcelain mug. And today, hot chocolate was poured into you. It was drank by the universe. And the cup was set to the side. Later on in the day, without the cup being cleaned, it was used again and again and again. If we wash it right now, a pristine ceramic mug will still exist, or a porcelain mug will still exist. But tomorrow, if it's used again and again and again, those layers of crusty grossness are building up. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Imagine the importance of spiritual showering. I am 48, I think. I'm going to say I'm 48. If it's not true, oh well. I'm 48 years old. Imagine if I've never spiritually showered. Imagine that in physical terms. I've never brushed my teeth. I've never washed my hair or my body. Could you imagine how, first of all, how horrible that would feel to me, but possibly to those around me as well? Spiritually showering is important. It's time for our first break. When we return, we're going to discuss in detail what spiritually showering means, why it feels like self-care isn't working for you, and I want to talk about the layers of your bioenergetic field and, in particular, what bioenergetic trauma is. You're listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble. When we return, we'll continue discussing bioenergetic trauma. We'll be right back.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Traci, and you're listening to Soul Healing. Today, we're talking about bioenergetic trauma. I think it's really important to understand bioenergetic trauma because a lot of times we know something's wrong. And we go first to fear, fair enough, but we very often resort to going to others to find out what's wrong. We don't have a relationship with self. We don't trust self. We have no way of communicating and of knowing what's going on. And very often we're prescribed meds for things that don't require meds. They require attention. And that attention very often is simply a spiritual shower. It's ways in which to remove layers and layers and layers of false beliefs, of fear, of anxiety, even if we're not aware that that's what it is. Imagine that you are wearing 40 snowmobile suits. And if you live in an area where snow or snowmobiles aren't popular, it's a full-bodied, thermal layered suit that keeps you warm. And you're wearing 40 of them. They usually zip up at the front of the body. And you're wearing mittens, not gloves, mittens. So your fingers aren't necessarily accessible. That's what life living without a spiritual shower is like. It creates frustration and overwhelm because you're never really comfortable. In order to unzip those layers, you have to first learn how to take the gloves off. Well, actually, you know what? Let's start somewhere else. You need to first realize you've got 40 layers of snowsuits on. Then you have to realize by taking off your mittens, you'll be able to get access to the zipper. But by unzipping and peeling away the layers, you instantaneously become comfortable in your own skin. My question to you right now is, are you comfortable in your own skin? Do you physically feel good in your body? Do you emotionally have the capacity to understand what you need? Are you mentally aware of harmony versus chaos? And are you spiritually connected to something greater than yourself that has the capacity to guide, to teach, to heal, and to protect you? If the answer is no, it's very likely that your bioenergetic field is clogged. that you are stuck in a space called unconscious incompetence. You just don't know that you don't know, so you don't know. Or you may be in conscious incompetence. You know that you don't know. You really want to know. You want to figure it out. You want to find the tools and the resources. You want to be able to take care of yourself effortlessly and without guilt. That all starts with understanding the power of bioenergetic trauma release. One of the main ways to be able to do this, as I've mentioned before break, is spiritually showering. We spiritually shower when we are consciously aware of letting go of all of the crap that we accumulated, whether we're aware of it or not, that day. It's doing something that brings us joy. It could be walking in nature, it could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be amazing intimate sex with your partner. It could be all of those outside things. But it could also be some really important inner tools as well. For me, and that doesn't make them right or wrong, but for me, those spiritually showering tools include meditation, Reiki, chakra balancing, yoga. They're things that I do to clear my mind, to clear my body, and to clear my spirit. They don't have to be hours and hours and hours. Scientists have proven that 90 seconds of intentful, high-frequency, positive energy has the capacity to change our neural pathways and to fuel us in just 90 seconds. Imagine if every day for 90 seconds you started your day with a spiritual shower that said that you are open to receive, but you're also protected from anything that is not in your highest good. And you are also only giving what is in your highest good. And that every night before you went to bed, you're doing the same thing. You're releasing yourself from that protection. You're washing off your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energies, and you're saying, thank you. Thank you for gifting me the capacity to know myself. This is a spiritual shower. And its value is that you become more and more aware of what serves you, what feels good, what vibrates at the energy of love, and you get to know more and more and more what doesn't. And you stop doing people, places, things, scenes, situations, and scenarios that cause you harm and suffering. And you start doing people, places, things, scenes, situations, and scenarios that bring you joy and fulfillment. It becomes quite easy. And all of this is happening because we're maintaining our bioenergetic field. It's no different than the body we live in, the car we drive, the house we reside within. You can't go long periods of time without maintaining those things. They are living, moving, breathing parts of our lives that require our attention. The challenge is, if our house is dirty, we notice it with our eyeballs and we do something about it, or we don't. But most of us do. But with your bioenergetic field, you can't see it, but you can feel it, and you can know it. And I'm asking you right now to give yourself permission to realize that when you feel heavy and down, that's because your bioenergetic field is too full of that which does not serve you. It's too full of people, of places, of things, of scenes, situations, and scenarios that are not in your highest good. some of the really cool things that happen when you maintain your bioenergetic field? You say yes to things that bring you joy, and you say no to things that don't, and there's no guilt and blame and anger and sadness. Your bioenergetic field is the energy in which you live in. Its purposefulness is to guide, teach, heal, and protect you. It's your body before your body. It's your energetic body. Now, I know there's a whole lot of us, and myself included sometimes, that don't even take very good care of our body. But that has to stop. If you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, it's time to become self-aware. Yes, we can medicate. It's an amazing temporary Band-Aid solution. But we can't medicate forever because we're not healing. And we're here in this space and time to learn, to share, to heal, to grow, and to prosper. We have a contract that says, I came here as a spiritual being to have this very particular human experience. Are you having a human experience, or are you simply surviving because your bioenergetic field is sick? And I'm asking that as a very serious question. You know, we very often go to outside influential others to help heal us. You know, therapy is an example for sure, and I'm all for therapy. I'm a therapist myself. But that therapy cannot be someone else doing your work. You have to do your own work. The reason that traditional psychotherapy doesn't work for most people, and the reason that it takes such a long time, is because we're not focused on all four levels of the bioenergetic field. We're not focused on physical. We're not focused on emotional. We're not focused on spiritual. We're sometimes focused on emotional, but it's all mental, and it doesn't work that way. When metaphysics is combined with psychotherapy, we have the opportunity to weave our conscious competence into our personal stories. And that shifts us from disease, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, into wholeness. It's a process of shifting that brings us into a state of awareness, and that's where we want to be, in a state of awareness, so that we're eliminating that gap or disconnection between soul and ego. Don't forget, whether you believe me or not, you are matter that's been created by energy. You have to live in that. We're going to move into our second break of the show. When we return, I want to talk to you about your specific bioenergetic trauma. I want to share with you easy ways in which I can gift you this information directly to you, actually. You're listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, and I'm looking forward to getting right back to you.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Traci, and I'm a doctor of energy medicine. Today, we're talking about bioenergetic trauma. In bioenergetic trauma, there is always the original trauma, the first belief system that anchors into our cellular memory. I believe that this happens during the conception to birth process. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a metaphysical story. I'm going to call it a story because you don't have to believe any of it. I wholeheartedly believe it because I've seen what I'm about to share with you in thousands and thousands of patients over the last 10 years. The reason that I'm sharing it with you is because I would like you to understand how this original trauma has come to be for you. But I also want to encourage you to connect with me to receive what these traumas are. I offer a complimentary 45-minute consultation. I love doing it in person, but obviously this is a global platform, and I'm more than happy to do it over the phone or Skype. But I go into your bioenergetic field and I ask your soul to tell me your conception to birth story. And I ask soul and ego to come into harmony and reveal to me what the creation is, the ego navigation of your original trauma. Should you choose to do work with me, I will eliminate the original trauma from your bioenergetic field so that it no longer compels you to live in fear, whether you're aware of being there or not. But if you choose to never do work with me, you will have incredibly powerful information that will allow you to heal your own bioenergetic field. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't go to healers or practitioners. I am one of those. But I believe that our purpose is to guide and teach you, not to do the work for you. So you need to learn how to do that work, to understand your bioenergetic field, to know your own traumas, to move closer to love and farther from fear. But we also need intellectual information to be able to do that, and I think that is what healers provide to us. They show us the way to do our work. They hold space for us while we're doing it, but we have to do our own work. So let's start with this story called Conception to Birth. I believe that every single one of us was once a spiritual being who made a contract to come to this space and time, and in particular, we chose human being to be in this space and time. Human beings live what's called a lifetime. That lifetime has a beginning called birth and an end called death. And the journey in between is filled with ups and downs, but every single moment is filled with experiences, emotions, ideas, thoughts, moments of free will and autonomy. And each of those moments, we are collecting information. And I believe that that's our purposefulness on this planet, is to collect information to take back with us to the whole. And when I say you as a human being, I want you to know who I think you are. I think that you are a piece of source itself called your soul, but you are also a strong and empowered warrior energy called ego. And that is your spiritual self. But in order to be human, you also had to form a physical body. And that's the whole point of the hopefully 9 months of the conception to birth process, is giving a house or a vessel for soul and ego to travel through space and time and experience humanity. So here we are in this conception to birth process. What happens is sperm and egg come together and form a single neural pathway. That takes a mom and a dad in most cases. And that's not fair. I shouldn't even have said that. That takes a sperm and an egg coming together to form a single neural pathway. In that moment of conception, that single neural pathway is going to process through experiences for those 9 months. The challenge is we've left source energy and we're traveling to earth energy, but we're somewhere in between, and that somewhere in between is inside of another human being, which is so amazing. But before we left spiritual being, we were warned that this is going to be a tricky process, because we're inside of another human being, and she's going to be having her own experiences. But everything that's happening is happening to her, for her, and because of her, and we need to mind our own business. But guess what? We don't. And we get caught up in what happens to her. We have no idea what's actually happening, first of all, because we've never experienced anything in our life. We have no way in which to interpret it except that it feels good or it feels bad. And the accumulation of those energies of good and bad begin to create within us belief systems before we're even actually born. However, during this period of time of conception to birth, our mother too experiences trauma. She goes into what scientists call fight, flight, or freeze. Something happens, real or perceived, and her body produces a chemical reaction of adrenaline, and that chemical reaction pummels us. And the very first time that it pummels us, we're terrified. And we make our very first criticism and judgment, and we say, ooh, this place, this thing called humanity, ooh, it's bad. We put a protective, energetic shield around us that was our nature as a spiritual being. But we're no longer in heaven energy. We're moving through to earth energy, where like attracts like. So we've now just sealed ourselves in this really bad experience that we think our mom has just had. And by think, I mean it could be a real trauma. She could have been hit by a car and hurt. Or Johnny could have jumped out and went, boo. Either one of those experiences is going to create adrenaline, a chemical concoction that's pummeling us in the womb. In this moment, we could have decided to go back home. This is at the stage called zygote. It's very unlikely that she knows she's pregnant, so it causes no harm and suffering. But you and me, we continued. We decided to go on. And we are forming a brain and a heart. So incredible. And all of a sudden, does it not happen again? This second original trauma creates what metaphysicians call the shift. It's the moment when soul and ego as one energetic entity split. You might recognize this in Eastern medicine. They call it yin and yang. Soul becomes yin energy, focused entirely on fulfilling the contract of collecting wisdom, of being passive, nurturing. But ego says, and excuse my language, ego says, screw this. My only priority is making sure that this body is safe. And ego takes on aggressive, masculine, and dominating energy. Now, in balance and together in harmony, this is a perfect match. But in separation, it causes challenge. And in this moment of separation, you, a newly forming human being, says, oh my, I'm alone and I'm unprotected. You're no longer a part of the whole, but you're also not yet human. And you've never experienced time before, so you don't know how long 9 months is. And this starts to get a little edgy. Should you have decided to go home, in this particular case, it would be a miscarriage. It would cause her harm and suffering, but it would have been exactly what was meant to be for both of you. Neither of you would have been able to fulfill your contract, and each can, if they allow themselves, be at peace. You continue to form muscles and tissues and bones, and oh my goodness, it happens again. And in that third trauma, you create what Christians have labeled original sin. And you create the belief that this place is bad, that you are alone and unprotected, and it must be your fault somehow. You must be what's bad. And each of these three traumas have happened before birth. You already believe humanity is bad, that you're alone and unprotected, and that you are bad. And in this moment, just before birth, ego does something super aggressive. It places inside of your cellular memory 3 energetic beacons that are meant to warn you when these negative energies come your way. The challenge is that they're beacons now in your cellular memory, and in human space and time, like energy attracts like energy. So now, in your cellular memory, deep inside your bioenergetic field, this place is bad, you're alone and unprotected, and your bad is a belief system, and it is attracting to you people, places, things, scenes, situations, scenarios. We have to shut off those beacons. We have to clear our bioenergetic field, and we have to give ourselves permission to move closer to love and farther from fear. We're going to break for our 3rd time today. And when we get back, I'm going to tell you what energies my ego created that say this place is bad, I'm alone and unprotected, I'm bad. And I'm going to offer you once again the opportunity to find out what your ego story is. We'll be right back.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. Before break, I was explaining the metaphysical conception to birth process in which our original trauma has been created. What I want you to realize and understand is that it's very easy to eliminate this trauma from your bioenergetic field for one reason. It's not yours. It never was yours, and it's not real. You interpreted from your mother's situation a belief system that had absolutely nothing to do with you. Nothing. It's not yours. Give it back. And let me tell you something really cool. When you do decide to release these bullshit rules, and you do decide to give them back, you think of them as yucky and ugly. They were hers. They were always hers. And a little piece of her was taken. Now, this is a completely different show, but I believe that that's what postpartum depression is. And we're too afraid to talk about it in the terms of something's been taken from us, but that's what we feel like. We feel like something's been taken and we need it back. Which is easy to do because it's not yours. You don't need it. Please give it back. My original traumas that said this place was bad is disillusionment. It's the capacity to take a story, whether it's true, real, or not, and make it into something and hold on to it like it's going to save me, like it's going to be the end-all, be-all. Creates a lot of lies, real, perceived, and gross. For me, alone and unprotected comes up as anger. It's a defense mechanism. Ego rages and burns everything down just to protect me, even if it's not something I need to be protected from. And finally, blame. I'm bad because I can't accept, or in the past was unable to accept, my own role in things. Everything was everybody else's fault. And it would cycle right back to disillusionment, anger, blame. But I know what those are. And I gave them back. I'm going to tell you something funny. When I did this work for my own self, probably about 12 years ago, my relationship with my mom changed. She's one of my best friends now, but for most of my life, there was something I just didn't want to be a part of that was her. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was disillusionment, anger, and blame. But when I was able to give that back to her, our relationship became whole. I got to be me without any criticism and judgment, and she got to be her without any criticism and judgment. And we never talked about it specifically. We just got back together exactly how my contract and her contract had agreed to metaphysically. If you want to know what your story is, what your bioenergetic original trauma is that keeps attracting the crap to you, let me know. It's a 45-minute complimentary session. I'll tell you your story. I'll gift you these pieces. And I will take a few minutes at the end to sell you on why you should do bioenergetic trauma release, why you should let me take this crap from you. You are ready for this information. The really cool thing is that once we've eliminated the trauma, the original trauma and its habits from your bioenergetic field, these three things that sound horrible, they become the greatest gifts ever given to you. As soon as I start to lie now to myself or others, I can stop myself. I can stop myself and say, oh, that's disillusionment. If you hold on to that, that's going to cause you pain and suffering. The moment anger sparks up, I know I've got 3 days to get a hold of it, or it's going to become something. It's moments now. My anger flashes in moments, but when it happens, it's saying to me, Trace, you're going completely out of alignment with who you're meant to be, and you're going into ego defense, and you're fighting tooth and nail to burn shit down that does not need to be burnt down. And I know the moment that I try to figure out how it's someone else's fault, that I am out of alignment with who I want to be. These are gifts now. Absolute, complete, and total gifts. Are you ready for these gifts? I want to close today the same way I pretty much always do, to tell you that I'm incredibly grateful to have spent this time with you. And I'm trusting that you got exactly what you needed from me today. But if for any reason that you haven't, or you have questions, concerns, or ideas, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Traci, Traci, at tracitrimble.ca. If you're curious about what I do or how I can personally guide and mentor you, check out my website at tracitrimble.ca. Next week, be sure to join me as we discuss your storyline. Every single one of us, whether we're consciously aware or not, has a personal storyline that we're living out. Some play their personal storyline with purposefulness, while others are completely unaware what they're creating. I'm going to explain what your personal storyline is, why this information is valuable, and how you can become the lead character in your story, but also the scriptwriter and the director. Until next time, please gift yourself permission to find self-awareness without judgment. Be soul and ego in harmony. Have a great week.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, PhD.